Alrighty, the court is now in session. Presiding Chief Magistrate Jeshin Vidal. Prosecution, do you have the arresting officer with you?
Your Honour, yes, we do.
Okay, what is the prosecution's name?
My name is Senior Constable Mike Scarn, Your Honour, and standing to my left here is Senior Constable Damo Widow Ashburn.
Okay, defense, what is your legal name?
Sleek Lopez.
Okay, Mr. Lopez, so here's what's going to happen. The prosecution is going to make a case. In their case, they're going to describe what happens, why what happened was a crime, and why it is beyond a reasonable doubt that you did that crime. You may object at any time. Please do so after they have finished their sentences, so that way we know what they were trying to say. You are choosing to self-represent, but do not fear. This is a dialogue in the interest of a fair trial. The magistrate will be questioning both the defense and the prosecution to ensure that all points are covered. Now, the prosecution, after they make their case, will yield to you. If you have a complaint about misconducts, policy, or treatment, please be advised that the likelihood of it affecting your guilt or innocence is very low, and it should be reported to IBAC or to Victoria Police leadership. However, if you believe there is corruption or fabrication of evidence or something of that nature, then feel free to bring it up. But once again, it will likely have little impact on your guilt unless you can prove or present a reasonable doubt that the evidence is trustworthy. I advise you to focus on, firstly, beyond a reasonable doubt proof that you've committed a crime, and I also advise you to focus primarily on whether a crime was actually committed. Do you understand, Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Okay, prosecution, what are the charges being sought today?
So, Your Honour, we're going to be charging Mr. Lopez with 3 charges today. We're going to be charging Mr. Lopez with armed robbery, kidnapping, and evading police whilst also engaging in a police pursuit, Your Honour.
All right, prosecution, please make your case.
Your Honour, may I approach the bench? Sorry,
you
the
may
lectern.
approach the well, yes.
Good afternoon, Your Honour. Thank you for listening to our case this afternoon. Our case is a pretty simple one, Your Honour. We caught Mr. Lopez at Principal Bank approximately 20 minutes ago, so about 3:10 p.m. in the afternoon on this very day, the 25th of October. Mr. Lopez, along with accomplices, were armed. There were multiple people inside who were being held on their knees against their own will. Mr. Lopez and his accomplices broke into the vault of Principal Bank. They illegally took money out of the vault of Principal Bank. To ensure that the hostages they were holding were able to be taken care of and their lives were maintained, we negotiated with Mr. Lopez and his accomplices, and we agreed to let him leave in his vehicle, as we of course value the life of our hostages above anything else. Mr. Lopez and his accomplices then fled Principal Bank in a white and colour HSV, which is registered to one of the accomplices, Mr. Rufus McCoy. The pursuit lasted approximately 5 to 8 minutes, Your Honour, weaving through the hills of Vinewood until it eventually came to a conclusion opposite ABHQ outside the Los Santos Customs area in an alleyway. Mr. Lopez and his accomplices were boxed in at both ends, and then he started to ram all police vehicles in the area. One officer was also injured as a result of this, who was hit by his vehicle. We then all drew our weapons, some lethal, some non-lethal, and we advised all occupants of the vehicle to exit with their hands raised. However, they continued to ignore our requests. Mr. Lopez exited the vehicle and he started to draw a weapon from his person, so we began to open fire. He was beanbagged by the CERT officer standing behind me, Mr. Senior Constable Damo Widow Ashburn, and then he was placed under arrest, Your Honour. And I would refer you to the evidence that we provided, which is body cam footage of the incident which I just described taking place.
So at this time, the body cam footage has not exceeded a 10-minute length. So the trimmed version displaying an event in an alley is being dismissed, but if a 10-minute or longer one is provided, we will review that. A still image of the 3 suspects outside of Principal Bank has been provided, and as noted in previous cases, Victoria Police is an honorable profession, so excluding any evidence to the contrary, your statement is believed to be reliable and true.
Thank you, Your Honor. Did you have any further questions?
Question number one.
Yes, Your
Was
Honor.
Mr. Lopez the driver to your knowledge?
I will have to confirm that with my co-counsel. Okay, Your Honor?
Yep, go for it.
He was not.
I can confirm that he was a passenger. He was not the driver of the white and colour HSV.
Okay. Is Mr. Lopez, was he holding or using a weapon that you saw during your interactions with him?
At Principal Bank, I never actually laid eyes upon Mr. Lopez as I was a highway unit, so I was quite far away from what was occurring at the scene. Can I just confirm my co-officers here? Damon, did you see him armed? Yep. Yeah, so it was a pistol, correct? Yeah. So and
Was
then when you
was the
sorry, Your
weapon
Honor.
recovered? Was the weapon recovered after you were taking him into custody?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yeah, it's been
Okay.
recovered and it's been held as evidence right now as we speak, Your Honor.
Alrighty then, and then the final question is: at any time did you lose sight of the suspect before detaining Mr. Lopez? So, for example, if you were in a police pursuit, did they round a corner, you lost eyes, you found them 20, 30, 60 seconds later, you believed it to be the same car, pursued it, and then this man was taken into custody, or did you maintain eyes the whole time?
Yeah. So, Your Honor, I personally lost eyes on the suspect for all of 2 seconds when he jumped a fence. However, he was in a bright green Christmas suit and there was an officer on the other side who saw the gentleman in the bright green Christmas suit and beanbagged him. And that was Mr. Lopez.
Perfect. So you saw a suspect exit a vehicle you had been pursuing from a crime scene. The suspect had a weapon in their hand when they exited the vehicle. They were wearing very distinct clothing. You lost sight for 2 seconds, and on the other side of a wall, there was one man wearing the exact same outfit with the exact same weapon who was taken into custody and who has been produced before me as the defense.
That is correct, Your Honor.
Thank you, prosecution. You may return to your table.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, defendant, Mr. Lopez. Firstly, let's go over the facts. The prosecution has presented a case. They have claimed that they saw you at Principal Bank in a bright green outfit. They claim that they saw you enter a vehicle and flee from them. They claim that you exited the vehicle with a weapon, and they claim that you jumped over a wall only to be non-lethally detained and then brought before me. Do you contest any of the facts they have presented at this time?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Lopez, please make your case and focus on your alternative facts, if you would, please. Thank you.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You may approach the well.
Okay, so the fact that I think is false is the fact that I exited a vehicle with the weapon. I do not recall withdrawing a weapon while exiting the vehicle. I do recall jumping over the wall, though.
Okay. So you are not being charged with assault with a deadly weapon or attempted murder of police. So the relevance of your weapon being drawn or not drawn at the time is not material to any of the charges. Armed robbery, did you have a weapon when the hostages were present? Did you use the weapon to coerce the bank employees into letting you access the vault? Kidnapping, were you participating in the act of kidnapping and holding people against their will and evading police? Did you, either in a vehicle or on foot, evade and attempt to resist arrest with the police? So we will concede that you may or may not have had a weapon in your hand, but we have not answered the question of were you involved in an armed robbery. As the facts stand now, it appears yes. Were you involved in kidnapping? There were hostages at Principal Bank, and as the facts stand now, you were there. And did you evade police? Your own statement has indicated that you did jump a wall. So if you'd like to present your defense, we'll see where this goes.
Yes, Your Honor. I do not believe that I should have been charged with the kidnapping offence or getting charged with the kidnapping offence due to the hostage had seemed quite, one, willing to be there, even though a gun was aimed at his head.
Are you contending that your hostage was a cooperating accomplice posing as a hostage?
I wouldn't say that, but he was already there when I got there, so I don't know if he was kidnapped or if he was an accomplice, because I have no idea. I had no relevance to the guys that were robbing the principal bank. I had been asked maybe 10 minutes before.
Okay. So you're contesting one charge. So you're going to concede to the fact that you participated in armed robbery, and you're going to concede that you evaded police. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So we're going to mark that pled guilty. Okay. So to the act of kidnapping. Um, so I'll go ahead and explain this to you. Um, you do not have to be engaged in kidnapping to be an accomplice to kidnapping. So, for example, let us say that I told the bailiff over here to take one of these prosecutors into custody, right? And I told him to put him up against the window, and he has done it all. He drew his weapon, he took the prosecutor hostage, he put him up against the window. I have not done anything, right? And I would argue that I was merely expressing my interest in seeing it happen, and I didn't tell him to do it, and he did it all on his own, right? The lack of calling the police, the lack of fleeing the scene of a crime, the lack of telling him, wait, no, I was kidding, would make me an accomplice in his kidnapping act. So, although you weren't involved in the kidnapping, you were involved in an armed robbery, and the only reason you were allowed to leave an armed robbery is because you had hostages to negotiate with. Would you agree with that? Or did you want to release the hostages and your accomplices would not let you?
I would have, yeah, I kind of wanted to release the hostages, Your Honor. But they said, no, we have to keep them until we are let go.
Okay, one moment. Prosecution, do you have any comments on the defense's culpability to the act of keeping the hostages and like potentially threatening them or anything like that?
Your Honor, I think you summarised it best yourself. End of the day, he was holding a weapon that was loaded at the head of a hostage. Whether the hostage was enjoying it or not, I think that's irrelevant. I don't believe the hostage could in good faith have left that scene.
One moment. I'm just reviewing a couple of charges here. Alrighty. So, I will give you a choice here, defense. So, to the charge of armed robbery, you have pled guilty. You will be sentenced for that. For the charge of engaging in a police pursuit, you have also pled guilty. You'll be sentenced for that. For the charge of kidnapping, um, essentially, you are guilty. I would highly advise the next time that you are involved in a criminal enterprise with hostages that you secretly release the hostages out the back. That way, if you get arrested, you can say that you released them. In this case, despite your attending court, participating in good faith, and admitting to your previous crimes, I am unable to find an appropriate lesser charge than kidnapping. I will, however, not account kidnapping to your weeks in prison. So if you please step back to your desk, I will sentence you at this time. Bailiff, if you could please take Mr. Lopez into custody. He will be found guilty of 3 charges, and I'll give you the charge amounts at this time.
Sorry, I'm back.
Okay, to the charge of armed robbery, he will be charged $5,000. To the charge of kidnapping, he will be charged $3,000, which is the minimum. To the charge of engaging in a police pursuit in which an officer was injured, you will be charged $8,000 due to the risk of life to the officer. Mr. Lopez, you will be taken from this place to His Majesty's Remand Center, wherein you will serve no less than 60 weeks. Court is adjourned.